Good evening and welcome to Sunset News this Thursday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I am Diana Master. In the news tonight, the Ministry of Health and Social Services has issued a warning to 126 welfare organizations, urging them to contact the Directorate of Social Services within 30 days to avoid deregistration. Acting Director Helen Mouton emphasized that organizations that fail to make contact may be deemed illegal. A full-page advertisement was published in a state-owned newspaper listing several well-known organizations, including the Michelle McLean Children's Fund, the Lions Club Altefeste, and the Hope Foundation, among others. Mouton explained that many of these organizations have failed to update their details or submit the required annual financial statements and reports as mandated by the National Welfare Act. While there are 469 welfare organizations registered in Namibia, Mouton noted that only about 40% are operational. Efforts to reach them via mail, phone and email have largely been unsuccessful, prompting the ministry to place an urgent advertisement as a final attempt to make contact. The law allows the ministry to deregister any organization that does not make contact within 2 years, and organizations that do not respond within 30 days of the Gazette announcement will be declared illegal. Mouton also acknowledged that some welfare organizations may be deterred by stricter financial reporting regulations and have opted to register as non-profits with BIPA or as trusts with the High Court. The government is aiming to improve oversight to combat money laundering and tax evasion while protecting the public. The ministry is currently working on a new bill to replace the outdated National Welfare Act, which is expected to be released next month. A meeting of the National Welfare Council in March will determine whether non-compliant organizations will face deregistration. Getting into our next story, the family of Joseph Kauchingu Ndoji has been awarded 1.3 million Namibian dollars in settlement following a lengthy legal battle stemming from his tragic death during a police and military operation in Rundu on March 3rd of 2023. Ndoji, a 34-year-old self-employed butcher, was shot by law enforcement after being mistakenly believed to be involved in illegal pangolin skin trafficking. The settlement, finalized on December 4, 2023, includes contributions from the Ministry of Defense, the Namibian Police NAMPOL, and the Ministry of Home Affairs. The funds will be used to compensate Ndoji's parents, Sachingo Antonio and Kanyana Linda, and his 7 minor children who have lost both financial and emotional support. Ndoji's death occurred during a joint operation involving the Namibian Defence Force Police and the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. At the time, he was wrongly suspected of trafficking pangolin skins. The family's lawsuit had initially sought 3.3 million Namibian dollars in damages for the loss of support and the emotional impact of his death. Ndoji had been the primary breadwinner for his elderly parents, contributing around 2,000 Namibian dollars per month, and his sudden death left his 7 children without a father's support. The family filed a claim for compensation, including 300,000 Namibian dollars for loss of parental support and 2 million Namibian dollars for the care of his children. Now, after initial attempts to resolve the issue amicably failed, the family pursued legal action, leading to the court-ordered settlement. Legal costs will also be covered by the government, with payment due within 90 days. Alois Mbombi, Ndoji's brother, expressed relief at the settlement, acknowledging that the compensation would ensure his family is cared for. He thanked their lawyer for securing the claim, which he hopes will ease the financial burden on the family. A year ago, Rundu residents held a demonstration demanding accountability for Ndoji's death. Questions remain about the circumstances, including why Ndoji, who was in police custody before his death, was allegedly found with the pangolin skin, and why he was shot in the upper body. Getting into our next story, just 3 months after her appointment, Tuyakula Haipinge has been replaced as the Executive Director of the Ministry of Higher Education, Training and Innovation. Haipinge, who took on the role in October of 2023, has been transferred to the Office of the Prime Minister, where she will now serve as the Executive Director in the Bureau of the Prime Minister. The announcement was made by Cabinet Secretary George Simata, who confirmed that Haipinge's new role will involve providing a range of support, including policy formulation, research, and strategic assistance to the Prime Minister. However, the reasons behind Haipinge's sudden transfer remain unclear. Haipinge's previous role came after the retirement of Dr. Alfred van Kent, and she was formerly the Deputy Executive Director at the Office of the Prime Minister. A replacement, Gerard Norman Vries, has been appointed as the new Executive Director of the Higher Education Ministry. Vries previously served as the Deputy Executive Director for Lifelong Learning, Arts and Culture at the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Aipinga's brief tenure at the ministry follows a turbulent period for the higher education sector, which has been rocked by allegations of corruption. These included requests for funds from public enterprises to cover foreign trips for the minister, Dr. Ita Kanji-Murangi. Although the Anti-Corruption Commission cleared the minister of wrongdoing, it did find that she was required to repay some of the funds and issued a warning to the ministry's former leadership against such practices. The ACC had strongly cautioned the ministry about the ethics of committing financial resources for trips with no direct benefits to public institutions, labeling it a potential avenue for corruption. Residents of Grootfontein and Tsumeb have raised concerns over prolonged power outages, which they say have caused damage to their household appliances. Despite reports of outages lasting days, Sinored has clarified that it was unaware of any such extended disruptions. Sinored spokesperson Charlie Matengu acknowledged a 24-hour outage but explained that the issue stemmed from damaged infrastructure belonging to NamPower, the company that supplies power to Sinored. He explained that Sinored relies on NamPower for power, but the public often holds Sinored accountable for issues as they have a contract with the company. Matengu further addressed the issue of appliance damage during outages, explaining that the danger occurs when power is restored. He advised residents to unplug devices or turn off power plugs to prevent damage from the surge when power is restored. He also cautioned that thunderstorms can cause power surges, recommending that residents disconnect their devices during storms to avoid damage. In response to claims that Sinored had only one technician on duty during the festive season, Matengu refuted the allegation, calling it misleading. He clarified that Sinored has a standby team of electricians available year-round to ensure essential services are maintained even during off-hours or closures. Matengu also pointed out that copper theft severely disrupts Sinored's network and incurs significant costs to replace stolen cables. This in turn leads to higher power costs, which has become a concern for residents who are already dissatisfied with rising prices. Sinored continues to invest in improving and maintaining its network despite the challenges of theft and external infrastructure issues. Now closing off our top stories, Kavango East's Education Director Christine Shilima has issued a stern warning to school principals, emphasizing that demanding fees during registration is prohibited and that no child should be sent home due to the inability to afford a school uniform. Speaking to principals from across the region on Thursday, Shilima stressed that all educators and administrators must uphold students' right to education regardless of financial barriers. I urge school board chairpersons to assist principals during registration and ensure that no learner is unfairly turned away, she said. Shilima also addressed previous reports of parents being turned away at schools, noting that despite investigations, no case of principals denying registration could be confirmed. However, she acknowledged that some parents had been stopped by unidentified individuals claiming to be teachers, calling this behavior unacceptable. As the region's education director, Shilima highlighted the challenge of taking disciplinary action without solid evidence and urged school boards to be vigilant during the registration process. She called for a collective effort to ensure all students have equal access to education and that administrative practices align with this principle. Shilima also addressed concerns about public complaints tarnishing the education system's reputation, explaining that these concerns reflect on her accountability as a leader. She urged school boards to better engage with parents and ensure they understand how education should be managed in the best interests of students. Regarding Grade 1 registrations, Shilima clarified that children should not be excluded simply for not attending pre-primary education. Given the shortage of pre-primary classes in some schools, such as Ndama JP School, requiring pre-primary attendance would be unfair to prospective Grade 1 learners. Finally, Shilima called for improved communication with parents, stressing that meetings should be a platform for parents to provide input, not just to hear decisions that have already been made. That brings us to the end of our top stories. Stick around, our Community Talk segment is coming up right after this.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
And now getting into our Community Talk segment. The Supreme Court, led by Judge Hosea Angula, has appealed to the parties involved in the case of Panduleni Itula versus the President of Namibia and others to submit all their answering papers by early February. Angula explained that they aim to conclude the case opposing the presidential election outcome before the 21st of March, but following normal procedures might delay the conclusion until November. The court has also asked LPM to decide whether they would want to be a respondent of the matter or an applicant in their case that can be heard parallel on the same day. Up next on Sunset News, Shell takes a $400 million hit on its Namibian oil discovery. We take a look at what this means for the country's offshore potential and the global energy market when we return with our economic news.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Heading straight into our economic news. Shell has announced a $400 million write-down on an oil discovery in Namibia's offshore PEL-39 block, stating that the find is not commercially viable. This marks a significant setback for the country, which has garnered global interest as a potential crude producer following high-profile discoveries. Shell, in partnership with Qatar Energy and Namibia's national oil company, made its initial discovery in 2022, sparking optimism about the region's energy potential. However, the company said the resources in PEL-39 cannot currently be confirmed for commercial development. Over the past 3 years, Shell drilled 9 wells in the licensed area and made additional finds, but technical and geological difficulties have hindered progress. CEO Wael Sawan previously described Namibia's offshore region as very challenging, citing the lower permeability of the rock and the high natural gas content that complicates extraction. Despite these challenges, Namibia remains an area of interest for energy exploration. Total Energies and Portuguese firm Galp have also made significant discoveries in neighboring blocks, further emphasizing the country's potential. The $400 million write-down was disclosed in Shell's trading update ahead of its Q4 earnings report on January 30th. The company also announced an additional $300 million write-down, primarily related to exploration licenses in Colombia. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 22.92 against the British pound, 19.09 to the euro, 18.09 against the US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars and 50 cents buys you 1 Chinese yuan. All commodities are up save for Brent crude oil, which took a 0.16% dip, now trading at $77 US and 43 cents per barrel. Ahead in international news, Mozambique's opposition leader makes a dramatic return after political turmoil, and the US Supreme Court takes on a pivotal case that could shape the future of TikTok for millions. Don't go anywhere.
I'm sure you've heard the news, and Namibia is calling. And it's time to answer with a smile. From the rolling sand dunes of Sossusvlei to the wildlife wonders of Etosha National Park, Namibia is a treasure trove of natural beauty and adventure. With Enjoy, booking the most renowned lodges is as easy as a desert breeze. Picture yourself sipping coffee on a deck, watching the sunrise. Paint the sky in hues of gold and orange. Or how about a thrilling safari, capturing memories that'll last a lifetime? Our easy-to-use website hosts the most beautiful lodges Namibia has to offer. Whether you crave luxury or a cozy hideaway, we've got you covered. So pack your bags and let's turn your dream adventure into reality. Namibia awaits, and with Enjoy, your perfect stay is just a click away.
You're still with Sunset News. In international news tonight, Mozambique's opposition leader Venancio Mondlane returned to the country on Thursday after fleeing in the wake of a contentious October election. His arrival in Maputo's international airport drew thousands of supporters, but the scene quickly turned chaotic as riot police fired tear gas into the crowd and positioned snipers on nearby buildings, according to witnesses. Mondlane has maintained that the October 9 election was rigged, calling on his supporters to continue protesting against the results. Demonstrations, which have persisted sporadically over 2 months, have claimed the lives of at least 278 people, according to civil society group Plataforma Decide. The protests have disrupted businesses, hampered border access with South Africa, and driven some residents to flee to neighboring countries like Malawi and Eswatini. The disputed election extended the half-century rule of the Frelimo party, which has governed Mozambique since its independence in 1975. While Frelimo and President-elect Daniel Chapo deny allegations of electoral fraud, international observers and local monitoring groups have questioned the fairness of the vote. In December, the country's top court upheld the election results, triggering fresh rounds of unrest. Mondlane's return comes at a precarious moment as tensions remain high ahead of Chapo's inauguration next week. The swearing-in ceremony is seen by many as a potential flashpoint in the country's deepening political crisis. As Mozambique grapples with ongoing protests and violence, the question of stability looms for its 35 million citizens. In our next story, the U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear arguments Friday in a high-stakes case that could decide the future of TikTok, the Chinese-owned app used by nearly half of Americans. The case tests the balance between First Amendment protections and national security concerns as lawmakers push for stricter regulations on foreign-influenced digital platforms. President-elect Donald Trump has asked the court to block a U.S. ban on TikTok, set to take effect on January 19th, arguing the measure violates constitutional rights. Trump, who has expressed support for TikTok despite national security concerns, has requested the chance to address the issue through political means when he takes office. The ban signed into law by President Biden requires TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, to sell the platform to a U.S. entity or face removal from app stores. Supporters of the measure, including Republican lawmakers and 22 state attorneys general, argue TikTok poses a significant risk due to its ability to collect vast amounts of user data, potentially accessible by the Chinese Communist Party. Opponents, including TikTok and digital rights advocates, warn that upholding the ban could set a dangerous precedent, giving Congress broad power to suppress speech linked to foreign entities. Legal experts have described the case as one of the most consequential free speech battles in recent history. TikTok's legal team has appealed the December ruling that upheld the ban, claiming it violates the First Amendment. If the Supreme Court rules against TikTok, experts warn the app could become unusable over time due to lack of updates, affecting its 170 million US users. And now, closing off our international news, Apple has reiterated its commitment to user privacy, asserting on Wednesday that it has never sold data collected through its Siri voice assistant or used it to create marketing profiles. The statement comes in the wake of a $95 million settlement Apple reached to resolve a class action lawsuit accusing the company of violating user privacy. The lawsuit alleged that Siri, Apple's voice assistant, had unintentionally recorded private conversations and shared them with third parties, including advertisers. While settling the case, Apple denied the claims and admitted no wrongdoing. Now, tens of millions of Apple customers could receive up to $20 per Siri-enabled device, including iPhones and Apple Watches, as part of the agreement. Apple has never used Siri data to build marketing profiles, never made it available for advertising, and never sold it to anyone for any purpose, the company said in a statement. It clarified that any data transmitted to Apple servers is minimal and only used when necessary to deliver accurate Siri responses. Apple also noted that audio recordings of Siri interactions are not retained unless users explicitly opt in to help improve the service. Even then, the recordings are safely and solely used for that purpose, the company emphasized. The statement follows widespread speculation on social media, where some interpreted the settlement as an admission of guilt. Apple underscored its continued efforts to enhance Siri's privacy protections. Meanwhile, a similar lawsuit targeting Google's voice assistant is pending in federal court in San Jose, California, led by the same legal team that represented plaintiffs in the Apple case. Now let's take a look at the weather predictions. Omaruru is bright and sunny. Maximum temperatures are going to be hitting 34 degrees Celsius and minimum temperatures of 20 degrees Celsius are to be expected. In Kaptima Molilo, they can expect some showers over that side. Minimum temperatures will be around 19 degrees Celsius and maximum temperatures will be around 26 degrees Celsius. Looking over at the coast in Swakopmund, minimum temperatures of 16 degrees are to be expected. Not much of a difference, with the maximum temperatures expected to hit 17 degrees Celsius. Ariamsplay is bright and sunny and clear skies, with the maximum temperatures of 35 degrees Celsius to be expected and minimum temperatures of 90 degrees Celsius to be expected. Stick around after the break. We take a look at the news headlining the world of sport.
Connection. It's in the human touch. The feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us. Creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
In sports news tonight, UK Athletics and a former senior official have been charged in connection with the tragic death of Paralympic athlete Abdullah Hayaye, who died in 2017 while training in London, prosecutors announced on Wednesday. Hayaye, a 36-year-old athlete from the United Arab Emirates, was training at the Newham Leisure Centre ahead of the 2017 World Paralympic Athletics Championships when a metal throwing cage fell on him. He had competed in the javelin and shot put at the 2016 Rio Paralympic Games. Hayaye was pronounced dead at the scene. The Crown Prosecution Service (CPS) has charged UK Athletics with corporate manslaughter and a breach of the Health and Safety at Work Act. Keith Davis, 77, who was the head of the sport for the 2017 event, faces charges of gross negligence, manslaughter and a similar health and safety offence. Both UK Athletics and Davis are scheduled to appear in Westminster Magistrates Court on January 31st. While UK Athletics declined to comment, citing the ongoing legal process, Davis could not be reached for response. The United States has decided to withhold its 2024 dues to the World Anti-Doping Agency, WADA, citing the need for significant reforms in the global sports watchdog. The announcement was made on Wednesday by the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, ONDCP. The decision stems from a dispute over WADA's handling of 23 Chinese swimmers who reportedly failed drug tests before the Tokyo 2021 Olympics but were still allowed to compete. The US had until December 31st to pay its $3.625 million contribution, but the ONDCP has yet to decide if it will fulfill the payment. Rahul Gupta, ONDCP director and a current member of WADA's executive committee, called for common sense reforms to restore trust in the anti-doping system. WADA must take concrete actions to provide athletes with the full confidence they deserve, Gupta emphasized in his statement. WADA did not directly respond to the US decision, but noted that any nation failing to pay its dues risks losing its representation on WADA's executive committee. Meanwhile, an independent investigation in 2023 found no wrongdoing by WADA in the Chinese swimmers' case, a conclusion reiterated in September. The U.S. Anti-Doping Agency, USADA, praised the ONDCP stance. CEO Travis Tygart called it the only right choice, adding that WADA's leadership has failed to meet reasonable demands for transparency and accountability, such as conducting an independent audit. With WADA's 2025 operating budget set at $57.5 million, the standoff underscores ongoing tensions over governance and trust in the global anti-doping system. And with that, we have come to the end of the broadcast. Make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook on all NMH platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, oneoftwo.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV channel 285 and GoTV channel 25 every weekday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. I am Diana Master, and this has been Sunset News. Don't end your day without us.